This episode of the Brown Park Podcast is presented by Grow Clinics. If you're ready to take control of your hair health and your confidence, visit growclinics.com.au. Hey, today we've got a special guest that pretty much people of our age would have grown up watching.
You would have seen him on Hey Hey It's Saturday.
Yep, going back in the day.
Yep, he's played with Tommy Emmanuel, Johnny Diesel, Jimmy Barnes.
He's played with B.B. King, he's played alongside Michael Jackson. It's insane. His name is Nathan Cavaleri, and he's our guest today on the Brown Park Podcast.
The Brown Podcast.
Question.
Hit me with it one more time.
Our guest today, Nathan Cavaleri, sort of came to notoriety via a variety show on Australian television back in the day called Hey Hey It's Saturday. Have you ever been in the audience for a TV show like that? You ever done one of those things?
Jay Letterman in New York would have been the only one that I could think of.
Jay Letterman.
Was it
a hybrid of Jay Leno and David Letterman?
No, David Letterman, that's it. Jesus Christ. Yeah, really paid attention. David Letterman.
You were in the audience for the Late Show in New York.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. Back in 2006.
Wow.
Yeah. We did
That's
that
iconic.
Yeah, it was epic.
Who's the guest?
Fergie. From
As in
Black Eyed Peas.
Oh, okay. I was going to say like as in the Duchess of York. Or...
No. I think that's who it was. It's all very vague, but yeah, pretty sure she was.
So that was in the Ed Sullivan Theatre in New York.
It was, yeah. So we had to audition to be in the crowd.
Really?
Yeah, no shit. So we had to go to this thing in the morning where this lady just got to know us, where you from, why you here, and all this kind of stuff. And then you don't get it. At the time, you got a phone call at 5 p.m. to be there by like 6 if you were good enough to be in the audience.
Oh my God, I didn't know that.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
Holy
so I was
shit.
good enough to be in the crowd.
Nice.
Hey. What about you?
Yes. Okay, so this is going back. I too actually have been in the Ed Sullivan Theatre, but I went for Colbert recently.
Colbert. I don't know who that is.
Stephen Colbert. He took over from David Letterman.
You know what I'm like with stars and celebrities? I think one's...
Well, you did call him Jay Letterman. Anyway.
See?
And also, I think I was in the... I have been in the audience for Hey Hey It's Saturday.
Have you?
Yeah.
Because you were... that was filmed in Melbourne and you were from Melbourne originally.
I was from Melbourne, but I went to the one that was up here on the Gold Coast at Movie World when they used to come up to Movie World quite a lot. I went to one of the Movie World ones. I've also been in the audience for Rove. Remember when Rove used to have a show?
Yeah.
You don't remember Rove, do you?
No, I do. Yes, of course I remember Rove McManus. Of course I do. What do you think? I'm an idiot? Quicker.
I'm just looking at the background there behind you.
Yeah, what a get up.
Drum kit, all the guitars.
Yeah, it's been acquired over the last 20 years, but it's time to cull a little bit.
Is it? Is it though?
Really?
I say that just to make myself not look greedy, really. So
Yeah.
that's it.
What's the oldest guitar you've got there?
In terms of age, I have a 1962 Fender Strat, which was and then my first ever guitar is the Mark Knopfler one, the one that Mark Knopfler gave me. So
Really? Okay, you've still got that.
Still got that, yeah.
You'd have to, right?
Yeah. There were a couple of moments where we were possibly going to sell it, but just can't
part with it.
Yeah.
Nah.
How much would that actually be worth if you were to sell that particular guitar? And
What
we'll come
is
to
your
that
number?
story.
Yeah, they say that everybody has a number. I mean, I think the number would have to be something that nobody would pay for, which is kind of like would change my kids' lives. And that's when I start going, maybe. But
Yeah, true story.
Yeah.
I know I've had a few people sort of approach me, especially when Mark Knopfler sold most of his collection, and we saw how much that went for. People were on the hunt for anything else that was floating around, and a few people tracked me down, and there was a museum that reached out to me that wanted to purchase it, and I just went, no, unless you're
You can't
going to change my whole family's life, I'm not going to do it.
Yeah. Well, look, it's great to have you on the podcast, and it's also very weird because I can remember your entire story. I remember the first time I saw you on Hey Hey It's Saturday way, way back in the day. And I remember you playing with Tommy Emmanuel at the time. And I remember that whole story that you went through. Did you Do you, despite what you went through with leukemia at the time, do you have fond memories of those days?
Absolutely. I mean, because I was going through leukemia. They were like beacons. They were just the bright, shiny moments, the things that I could look forward to, whether it was being on Hey Hey or even just picking up my guitar to begin with. And as soon as some of my idols came into the picture, it's epic. I mean, it feels like a different life.
I mean, how old were you then, Nathan, when all that was happening?
That happened from the age of 7 till about, say, 14.
Yeah, right.
Okay. Well, for those that don't know your story, you're almost like a child prodigy as far as the guitar goes, but you made the headlines because of your battle?
Yeah, correct. So when I was 7 and I had leukemia, Starlight Foundation granted me a wish to meet Mark Knopfler from Dire Straits. So that was covered by the media. And then
Extensively covered by the media.
Yeah, exactly. And then Daryl and even the Midday show and other sort of variety shows and night shows would have me on, tell my story, play some guitar, but then the music took over from there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But for the kids that are listening, we used to have variety shows on Australian television.
I know, isn't it wild?
They don't really exist anymore.
I mean, we grew up on that. Like, I mean, the family would sit down and watch Hey Hey It's Saturday on a Saturday night. Like, it really did bring the family together back then.
Yeah, it's a ritual, and when you put it like that, it was a catalyst for people to come together at a certain time, because you could only watch it then. That's it. That's a time, and there are lots of shows that that did that, and it's been interesting as a father now, watching a lot of those things. Sort of, they don't really exist.
No.
So
how many kids have you got, Nathan?
I've got 2.
2.
Yeah.
Boy, girl, how old?
I've got 2 boys. I've got a 10-year-old and I've got an 8-year-old.
Yeah, right.
Rambunctious age.
Right in the thick of it.
Yeah, I love it though. Like I got to say, I've loved everything about being a dad, but I don't miss those early feral years where they were just feral.
Yeah.
Chaos, feral, sleep deprivation.
Yeah.
But now, like, we can hang. We hang. It's great. Like when I have a day off and I have a day off with them, it feels like a day off. It's not like you finish work or whatever, and in a weird sort of way, it is work. The work continues across the weekend because you got to, But I didn't expect fatherhood to teach me so much about myself.
Yeah, you learn a lot about how you handle. I mean, you've obviously been through quite the stresses in your life, but nothing teaches you more than going toe to toe with a mini version of yourself.
Absolutely, no filter. And I think they're incredible teachers, reminders to be present, which is what we need now more than any other time. They will let you know when you're not truly with them.
Oh, I want to go right back. So you're 6 years old. You've got leukemia at 6. Is that when?
Yeah, that's when I was diagnosed. Yeah.
And how did you find out? Were there symptoms leading into it? What made your parents dig down into it?
Immune was getting a bit compromised, so I was picking up lots of bugs. Then the real issue was just kind of a long period of lethargy where I just didn't have my usual energy. And then what took me to the hospital was just these pains that I remember. It was like just knives around my whole waistline and my back until I sort of couldn't breathe because of how painful it was. So it wasn't an easy diagnosis. It took them some time because they rushed me to the hospital and did lots of tests. They came back and they went, and then, and in the end, it was leukemia.
And how when you got the results or you found out that this is leukemia, this is what we're dealing with, I'm going to ask how your mum and dad went, but how did you handle that as a kid? Did you know what was about to happen? No. Not
at all. I think they were very smart in only giving me the information that I absolutely needed, that I also had control of. So what positive thing could I possibly do with the fact that I could die?
Yeah, true.
It had just put me in a state of fear. And they recognized that a big part of the healing process was going to be also to preserve my fighting spirit and my liveliness and my energy and all that type of stuff. So the tricky part was that I didn't know why I had to go through what I was going through. So every day I'd wake up or I'd feel sick or I'd have to take these pills. I was always had troubles throughout the whole treatment swallowing pills. And then the more painful sort of procedures like lumbar punches. And I'll never forget that time when my first lumbar puncture and they put me on the bed and I did not know what to expect. And they'd get me to sort of bunch up into a ball, like I'm holding my knees, and then they put a needle that big into the spine and to draw out fluid and put fluid in and draw out marrow, I think it was. And it took 4 or 5 nurses to hold me down, and when I got to the other side, I was like, thank God that's over. That was the most painful thing that's ever happened to me. But then they told me I had to do that every week for a certain period of time, and then it would draw out, over time, like to once a month, to once every 2 months, once every 3 months, once every 6 months, and I think that was probably my first real experience of being stuck in a state of anticipation, where my mind was no longer present like a child generally is, aside from I got to hand in my homework and all that type of stuff. But I would say on the overall, kids are pretty present and in a state of anticipation, just counting down the days and the hours and the minutes until I had to endure that next operation.
Because that would have been, and we'll touch on it a bit later on, but maybe that's where the anxiety potentially comes in, because you would have been anxious coming right up to that. Like when you had the lumbar punch, then a week later, you're going through that again. So the lead up to that, as a child, would have been fucked.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that, and as you said, we'll talk about it when you're ready, but that realizing that anxiety can only exist when you're in a state of anticipation, it was essentially a pattern that was just, I had formed. Too easily I have to catch that I can fall into a state, an anticipatory loop. Whereas people who just are a lot more present in their everyday life and have no reason to be stuck in a state of anticipation generally find it a little bit more difficult to be carried away by anxiety. So
for sure.
And also as an adult, if you were to go through that as an adult, you kind of know how to mentally control the situation, whereas a kid you're just like, no, I don't want to do this, no way. So it becomes a different play.
That's right. And the more I learn about trauma, and not that I could say I've had many traumas in my life, there's mini ones and all that type of stuff, but that was obviously a big one. And it's the loss of the self, full loss of the self. And I think some of the symptoms and ways that I may experience anxiety relate to those moments, because I don't experience anxiety necessarily with heart palpitations and that. I experience anxiety as it feels more like derealization, dissociation, all that type of stuff. And they don't have too much research on where that comes from. They can establish where the racing heart comes from, the sweaty palms, the fight or flight. But the little that they do know, they feel like it's the brain's way of detaching from the senses because they're overstimulated by something, and a protective mechanism is to literally detach from the senses, which is a pattern that has been formed from people who have had physical trauma. And that would make a lot of sense to me in that. Yeah.
Are you still in remission now? Has it ever come back? Because
no, I was in remission at 12 years old.
That's great.
Yeah, with the all clear. I think it was 3 or 4 years later.
Okay,
so
that's fantastic. Leukemia has been in my family, so I lost my grandfather in 1984 to that.
Yeah, right.
But then also I've had a cousin that's had it, but it's come back a couple of times. So I was wondering whether you'd been leukemia free for the remainder of your life, which is fantastic.
Well, I was told through studies that the type of leukemia that I had, I've got as much chance of getting it again as somebody who hasn't had it. It's interesting. My parents had a really tough decision back in the late 80s. Do they go radiation or do they go chemo? And they had a lot of success, and there's historical data on adults who went through chemo during that period, but introducing it to kids was a very, very new thing. I believe it was within that year. So the oncologist presented those two options and said, radiation, here are the chances, but here are also the long-term effects and the issues. But then here is chemo, and this is the effect it will have, in the future. So there's not as many risks with certain, whether it's even just reproduction in the future and all that. But it's obviously very fresh, and there's just not much data on its use on kids. So, and put the decision to them, and they had to go in and use their intuition for that one by choosing chemotherapy.
And they made the right one. Clearly worked.
Yeah.
So your chemo journey was right through the period where you're hitting these levels of fame. You're touring. You're playing with some music icons in Madison Square Gardens.
Yeah.
BB King.
How did the chemo journey, how did you fit in the treatment during your travels, and do you think music helped you through those?
Yeah. The early days were quite tough. Like I'd be on the way to the Midday show, and we'd have to pull over on the side of the road so I can vomit, and then we get on with it. But on the outside, there are people, significant amount of people that will say that's just too much pressure. You've got to understand though that those moments were my beacons. They were my drivers. The spirit. All the work that I've done with mental health and its relationship with the body shows me that purpose plays a huge part. If you don't have a reason to fight or something to look forward to or whatever, I believe that your cells behave differently to when you do. If I worded that right. And for me, I didn't know I was fighting for my life. What I was fighting for was being able to get up on stage, being able to play with my idol, being able to meet Mark Knopfler. And that's how I present what the Starlight Foundation do, is that they're not just a positive distraction, even though that is helpful, but they give kids a reason subconsciously to want to push through and fight through whatever shit that they have to deal with to get their wish. And that's what Mark Knopfler was for me. I saw that in the calendar. So I went from, please don't drag me onto the table for the lumbar puncher, to putting myself on there. Let's get this fucking thing done so I can meet my idol. Whenever I've gone through periods of time in my life where I've had to deal with certain, more minor sort of illnesses or whatever, I see a direct correlation between my mental state and my ability to heal. And I stand by that one.
This is the Brown Park Podcast. Now, a word from our sponsors.
Are you one of the many Australians experiencing hair loss? Do you find yourself avoiding the mirror or constantly trying new products that just don't work? Well, there's a solution that's backed by science and delivers real results, and it's Grow Clinics. Grow Clinics is a leading hair transplant clinic with locations across Australia and New Zealand. They perform over 150 hair transplants every single month, and their procedures are led by experienced doctors who are experts in the field of hair restoration. But Grow Clinics isn't just about hair transplants. They offer a wide range of services to combat all stages of hair loss. Whether you're looking for prescription hair care you can use at home, or you're interested in specialised non-invasive treatments in clinic, Grow Clinics has you covered. With clinics in Brisbane, Gold Coast, Sydney, Melbourne, Perth and Auckland, New Zealand, there's a Grow Clinic near you. And the best part? They're offering a free consultation for our listeners of the Brown Park Podcast. Just mention our show when you call in to book, and you'll be on your way to a fuller, healthier head of hair. So don't wait any longer. Take control of your hair loss journey with Grow Clinics.
This is the Brown Park Podcast with Christo and Dion. Now back to the show.
So moving on, you obviously focused on music. You went into remission and you sort of, toured and things like that. But then you quit music for a while and you became a brickies labourer with your dad.
Yeah. So when I was about 15 or 16, that ended my time on Michael Jackson's label, because I was signed to Michael Jackson's label during that period.
MJJ Recordings or?
Yeah, MJJ was the record label. Yeah, that's right. And so I was signed to that when I was 12. In Australia, I was still signed to Mushroom Records, which was via Jimmy Barnes and Jane Barnes, his wife. And we released one album with Mushroom, another with MJJ, but then the second one didn't get released. He sold the record company. They didn't want us getting involved, like getting taken down by the new owners and whatever, so they released us. And but it kind of came at a time where I didn't know what I wanted to do. My parents were kind of felt that I needed just to go back to normal life. To sort of, we'd been going since I was 8 years old. We just kind of rode that train, and it was chaos. It was amazing chaos. Like I loved it. But we're all kind of getting a little bit tired, and also going through puberty. They could see that just wasn't the right time to be continually being in front of the cameras while I'm going through all these awkward developmental phases, and stylistically I was wanting to try different types of music and all that. So it was just everything pointed towards pulling back. I finished school and I'm like, I'm going to make some money because I mean, musicians these days complain about, we're getting ripped off. It's all technology and everything, man. Like it was the same back then, just different details. It was always hard to make money. I mean, I was on rotation every single day on Triple M for a whole year. Like I walked away from that, from my whole career with probably $2,000.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
with all that success
and public perception of that would have been Nathan Cavaleri. He's loaded. He's always on TV. He's on the radio.
Yeah, I remember at school getting shit because mum and dad drove a Merc, right? But then they'd get into their fucking top of the range Land Cruisers, and I'm like, that's like $20,000 more than mum and dad's Mercedes.
Kids are judgmental little prick.
Yeah, but also what came through puberty was just insecurity. So I was a bit embarrassed by my name. I was embarrassed by.
Pause there. You're embarrassed by your name. To what extent?
Oh, because just the Australian tall poppy syndrome. It's primary school was cool. Primary school was good. The kids weren't corrupted. And they actually supported me. They supported me through leukemia. The first issue I actually had with that was actually through a teacher in year 5. And I actually talked about this on a social media post that blew up. I didn't expect it to blow up. It just blew up. Obviously, there's lots of people that can kind of relate to it. And bit by bit, it's just amazing how this stuff is contagious. The way that she would talk, the way that she would embarrass me, even the little rumors and the little shit, that would get, bit by bit, the kids started to see me, how she saw me, through her issues, through whatever, crap was in her head.
So the teacher had tall poppy and was trying to pull you down a peg.
Huge. Yeah, beyond. She had so much tall poppy that one of the teachers who was always incredibly supportive of me walked in on her binning all my votes for, student council, prefect or whatever. I'll never forget year 6 when they were getting all student votes for prefect, captain, all that type of stuff. Everybody came up to me, man, we want you to win, we voted for you. Now, keep in mind, I'm still going through leukemia, so it wasn't like I was walking around king shit. I've never been an extrovert. With the fame came a lot of insecurity because I just wanted to blend in. I didn't want the attention. So, and I valued school. I put as much as I could into doing good schoolwork, so I wasn't a little shit. And then I was surprised that I didn't get anything, and then everyone's confused walking around. And I found out like 4 or 5 years later, my mum was having coffee with one of the teachers, just reflecting and everything, and that's when she said, Nathan didn't stand a chance with that teacher running the grade. She just binned all of his votes, and I busted her doing it.
What a fuck up!
Yeah, I know. And her reason was Nathan's got enough attention.
What?
But
I mean, if you look at what you were going through and knowing what we know now, purpose is everything. So that might have been, that would have been good for you in that time to have that.
I think so, because it's one thing to get attention on TV, but as a kid, and I would say even as an adult, what matters the most is the respect that you have from the people that that surround you, your friends and your family. That means the most. So they're two completely different things, and I suppose that put me in a trajectory of because that kind of got into my head. When it comes from a kid, it's one thing, but when it comes from an adult, it's another. And high school was pretty rough to start with, and there were the same issues in high school. It was a real divide. There were the school that I went to is a good school. The principal who ran it at the time put me up for Young Australian of the Year. He was really proud. to have me and supported me in any way, shape or form. He knew I was a good student as well. And there were teachers that aligned with that, but then there were other teachers that hated it. And they would tell me that, like, this is, after I finished high school, there were full wars in the staff room over me.
What? And you're just trying to exist as a kid growing up.
It'd be over something stupid like, I had a movie role that required me to have longer hair, and so the principal would be like, no, we want you to get this movie. We can bend the rules a little bit with you, just as long as you're doing well at school and everything, and which we were. We'd take a tutor on the road, and it's that shit. And there's a little bit of this, one of my, who I thought was my favorite teacher, I found out was the one who created a whole bunch of rumors that spread into the playground, and it's nasty. But I don't consider myself bullied. I personally feel like it's a word that's just overused, and I'm an advocate for facing these situations, not running from them. And thankfully, my parents taught me how to do that. I mean, probably more my dad than my mum. My mum was more under the schooling of just ignore them, they'll get over it. Dad had some different philosophies that really served me, to be honest. They're a bit controversial, but they served me.
Can I ask, and I want to just go back a section, there's not many people in the world that can actually say that they were signed to Michael Jackson's record label.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't around for a long time, was it?
No, I think it was probably 4 or 5 years.
Yeah,
there was so the bidding war was between Michael Jackson's label, Madonna's label, and Prince's label. And we went with MJJ because of
It's Michael Jackson.
It's Michael Jackson, but creative. We had creative control. It was the only one. Like, the others wouldn't budge on it. My parents and my manager wanted to keep my authenticity, and they were a bit worried about the big major label getting in the way. Unfortunately, for me, the year that I got signed, the year that we dropped the release was the first of his allegations. So they obviously wanted to keep me out of it, and so they didn't market my stuff like they were intending to.
I was going to ask that. You would have been young at that time, so that would have just gone.
Yeah,
Jesus.
You work so hard, and you finally get this opportunity, and the world throws you, a curveball like that, and. But I mean, there were lots of other opportunities that came about, lots of amazing things like, touring with BB King.
Yeah, right.
Touring like Switzerland, playing some of the biggest stages, and it's just really special experiences. But
did you ever get to meet the man, or did they keep you away from him after that allegation so that you didn't become embroiled? Or
no, I met him twice. I met him just casually after we had signed.
Yep.
And mum and dad were there, and my brother. I'll never forget my brother because at the end of the conversation, so him and a couple of his people were there. And so, do you have any last questions before Michael? With Michael before we leave. And I didn't have anything. And there's my brother saying what we all thought, and because he was like 8 years old, and he's like, "Yeah, can you do the moonwalk?"
I love it.
And he's like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I got my lawyer shoes on today," But no, very, very sweet. He's a very sweet dude and very shy. And then later, I actually played on stage with him for an HBO special that didn't end up going ahead because he passed out on stage right next to me. He was right there.
Really?
We were playing Black and White together, and at the very end, he just collapsed and face planted the foldback speakers, and I thought it was part of the show. He's doing like a James Brown, or someone's going to come out and then he gets resurrected or something. And no, he was out. They took him out on a stretcher, and show didn't happen.
Wow.
Ways of the world, I'm glad it didn't. Because my parents never felt comfortable me doing it, because they had me basically playing guitar like I was Macaulay Culkin.
Yeah, for the black and white thing. Yeah,
and that's not what I do. And they honestly believed that exposure, like, what's the point of exposure? It's not if it's not exposing you in the way that aligns with who you truly are.
Yeah.
And people are going to get the wrong idea about what you do. And so it didn't go ahead. But not long after, I scored the BB King tour, and there were conversations with his management about that whole situation, and they confessed that if BB had seen Nathan on stage like that, he wouldn't have brought him on tour.
Yeah.
Wow.
So how about that?
That's a sliding doors, right?
How old were you when you were touring with BB King?
12.
Did you get stage fright at that? I mean, at that age, you're performing to some massive crowds.
No, my challenges with stage fright happened at the very start when I was obviously, getting used to audiences, but the trajectory of that once I learned how to deal with it served me right up until I was probably in my late 20s when I started having problems with anxiety and chronic fatigue and all of that. And then it was like it was day one all over again. I still got nervous. There were some moments. I remember Switzerland out in the Green, a festival, and they put me on after Elton John and before Page and Plant. And so I'm watching.
Do you just sit there and take in what you're saying? Because, like, holy shit. Like, that is...
Yeah, I know.
Like, you have lived that musical dream of...
It was wild.
Yeah.
Like, I was side of stage with Silverchair, who were playing the shit kicker stage, like down, like out the back. And here I was playing main stage, right, after Elton John. And then, obviously, Ways of the World. And which I love those boys, and I'm just watching Elton John. He's got 60,000 people in front of him, just jumping, and I'm like, how the fuck am I supposed to get on after that? Like, and so I got those trembles, and I remember my dad saying to me, those people want to see you do well. They're not there going, who the fuck is this guy? They want to see you do well. You just got to get out there and play like you play in those smoky blues bars in San Francisco. You just do what you do. And so it was a lesson in focus, and perception. And I got out there and it was just dead quiet. 60,000 people going, what's this about? And I get in and start playing some blues. And then I'll never forget, at the end of the first song, I thought they were booing me because 60,000 people go, ooh, like that. And I'm like, and I turned and I'm like, are they booing me? And they're like, no, that's like a signature thing at that festival. When they're in awe of something and they love it, they put their hands out, they shake it and they go, oh. So 60,000 people are going wild.
That's epic.
This is the Brown Park Podcast with Christo and Dion.
Hey team, let's talk hair for a second. If you're starting to notice a little less hair up top, don't stress, you're not alone, there is something you can do about it. Grow clinics are the absolute experts when it comes to hair restoration. There's no gimmicks, no miracle sprays, just real medical solutions that work. They're all about natural results, tailored plans, and getting your confidence back without the dodgy hairlines or the old school stigma. Thousands of guys are seeing serious regrowth with Grow, and the best part, you can book a free consultation to see what's possible for you. So if your hair's thinning, don't wait. Head to growclinics.com.au, that's groclinics.com.au, and tell them Brown Park sent you.
This is the Brown Park Podcast.
Real fellas. Let's scoot forward. Okay, you've been in bands and things like that, but you've, as an adult, now suffered, and this is primarily why we got you on here as well, is to talk about your battle with anxiety. Like you said, you've also had chronic fatigue at some point. When did that start? And you chose not to go down a medical pathway as far as anxiety and things. You went down a more holistic approach. How did you first notice, okay, this is where it's coming out and this is what's happening?
Probably started at about 24 years old when I just kind of had this realization of my mortality. And I had a series of people around me dying. Death was just never around me. Like, I know, like, I went through leukemia and everything. I didn't know anybody who had passed away throughout that period. I wasn't even aware that I was fighting for my life, really. And I know there is a little bit of an interview where I do say, they need to invest money into working out why all these kids were dying. But I didn't think it related to what I was going through. And I just kind of remember having a realization at a set of lights once, and I had this, what I now know is like a panic attack or an anxiety attack, and where I felt dreamlike, like my whole, like everything was dissociated, and I didn't even know it was anxiety. So I just was like, am I leaving my body? Like, what the fuck is this?
And it was just out of nowhere. You just had the set of lights.
Well, out of nowhere, yeah. And I didn't realize that the pattern, because then I kept feeling it here and there in random situations. And I had I started to realize that it was every time I thought of dying or somebody dying.
Yeah.
And mainly me. What does this mean for me? Fuck, that means I'm going to die one day. What does that mean? And then it just went black, and then it would kick off. Now, so first thing I did was, all right, I got to stop thinking about that. But then I would experience it in different locations, and not it, even though I wasn't consciously thinking about it, it was still going on in the background, in the subconscious. Without me even realizing, I'd feel these crazy sensations. And then I became afraid of the environments where I had that experience.
Yep.
So the first might be driving to work. So then it became an ordeal to get in the car and go to work, right? Because I was terrified of having that anxiety attack, that feeling. Then I remember having a dinner with a friend, and I randomly would experience it again. And then I began to be terrified of just social situations that I couldn't get out of, because I was like, God, if it's a one-on-one, like, it's going to look weird, me just doing the runner. But if it's a big party or whatever, I can kind of get out without anyone noticing. So me avoiding these situations, it started to close down my world.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah, and I was trying to tour with my old band, Nat Con the Kings, in this state. So and then the last of it was, I remember playing Queenscliff Music Festival, and now this is about 3 or 4 years into having it chronic, where it was also hijacking my sleep. So I would feel it in my sleep, so then I was afraid of sleeping, which made it really difficult to get through life, because I would be like averaging 3 hours sleep a night, and then the feeling that would sweep over me when I'd start to hear the birds chirp and the sunrise and motors start would be like, because I used to love that.
Yeah.
Wow, all right, let's go. But now it's like, shit, I got to face the day. Like, and it goes beyond. People who haven't experienced long-term insomnia probably won't truly get it. That sleep torture is a real thing. Like, it psychologically messes you up. And then, the last of it was, getting up on stage. I remember, feeling terrible, but I pushed through, got through to the second last song, and then I had a wig out, and then sort of had a bit of a moment blackout on stage where I sort of half passed out.
Like Michael.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, totally. And then got off stage, and I went, thank God that's over. And then I was like, shit, I forgot. I got to do another 1.5 hour set in 2 hours time.
Did anyone know or acknowledge or see that you were having a moment?
No. It's and even my bandmates at the time, they didn't know what to do with that information. I remember in between those 2 gigs, getting taken back to my accommodation. My ex, who was singing backing vocals for me at the time, she didn't know what to do, and I just locked myself in my room and having anxiety attack after anxiety attack over and over again, just dreading going back out there on stage again. And it was very similar to the feeling I had sitting in the waiting room about to get a lumbar puncture. So I was like, I can't even tour like this. I've got to, and my world got so small. It couldn't even walk out of the house.
Because it feels like when you were a kid, the stage was your, I don't know, the place to get away from it all, or that's where you were at your happiest.
Yes. Yeah, it was like my superpower. It was like, and that's what I say is like that physical challenge of going through leukemia. Like it's different to having a mental challenge. Like I could push through the physical shit to get up on stage and play, but I couldn't do that. That same technique didn't work when you got these issues and these demons going on up there. So, and I remember for a good year or two, I was trying to figure out what was going on, and I'd get blood work, all this stuff, and the best that they could give me, was, you need to be on an antidepressant. And
so your blood work was fine. Your blood work wasn't showing anything up at the time.
Nope.
That would have been a head fuck too, wouldn't it?
That was, because it was like, I wanted something to show up. Like, please give me something that says that, like, okay, this is the thing that's wrong. This is what we need to do, because I can't live like this. And they were really dark times. But Now, I'm not going to bag out mainstream medicine because I'm alive because of it as well. But I think there needs to be a lot more work done in the mental health space, because I went to 4 or 5 different doctors, and it was amazing how within 15 minutes they can just so easily put me on and give me a prescription for an antidepressant without any further testing or even suggestions to go see a psychologist. And that's just mind-blowing to me. But it took I remember one saying, "Oh, it's just a genetic thing. Your brain chemistry is out of whack." I'm like, "Well, how'd you test that?" "Well, we can't test it, but just everything that you're saying, that's what it is." And so how long am I going to be on these antidepressants for? And he's like, "Oh, forever." I'm like, just like that? Like,
Just like that.
Okay, just like that. And so I walked out going, all right, I've got to go out into the big mysterious world and try something else. And that's the deal I gave myself. I said, 1 year. I give myself 1 year. 1 year, I'm going to just try a bunch of things and see if there's any progress. And if there's not, I'll go on the pill, because I definitely can't keep living like this.
Mm-hmm.
So, I tried meditation, offered a certain type of thing.
Yep.
But it didn't really educate me on what was truly going on in my mind and how to deal with it. I did start seeing a psychologist. That helped to a certain point. But the real traction that I got was with an integrative medicine doctor. And I'm not saying that all integrative medicine doctors are going to be the answer.
What is an integrated medical?
An integrative medicine doctor is an integrative medicine GP is, and this is a misconception, is that they're not doctors, they're not GP. They actually are. They do everything that a GP needs to do first, and then they do further studies into more of a holistic nutritional world of clinical nutrition. And I trivialized that for ages, like clinical nutrition. I'm like, well, I'm not a sports person. Like it's my emotions and my brain, but I didn't realize the relationship between your body and your mind.
Yeah.
And whether it's gut health, whether it's, being deficient in certain things. And so those same blood tests that the GPs that I saw that said they're great, I passed them on to my integrative medicine doctor, and he went, "Dude, your body's not working for you. These are the reasons why you're feeling the way you're feeling. This is the reason why you are not sleeping. This is the reason why when you eat what you eat, it's like you might as well have not have eaten it, because it's just going straight through you." And, the protocols that they put me on and the further testing that they did, and it was in black and white. It wasn't like, hey, I want you to stick your tongue out and put one eye up there and, chant, I feel amazing. And there's none of that stuff. It was like, I was doing more blood work, and I was doing gut testing as well. And I remember after a gut test, which was me shitting into a fucking container that was like a snack box, KFC snack box container. That was an ordeal.
Yeah.
And it came back with me being intolerant to pretty much most of the things I was eating. And that's how I discovered I had strep gut. I had strep in my gut. I had leaky gut. I had my immune system in my gut had been compromised. And so they started putting me on these protocols, and for every protocol that they put me on and I get through the other side, it was like these lights are coming back on.
When you say protocols, like example?
It was such a long time. I mean, I will say this, and they said it as well. Not everything is going to work. It's a grey area. We're trying to find patterns here, and to go, all right, this is what that problem is. Sometimes it is obvious, sometimes it's not. So there are lots of different, what do you call them? I don't know, minerals, supplements and stuff like that to remedy. Sometimes there was a small period where I actually was on an antibiotic to deal with the strep. It's avoiding certain foods. So I was off alcohol for about 3 years, which wasn't a problem because alcohol actually didn't make me feel good anymore. And then at the same time, then I was being educated on how to deal with the mind and how to deal with my emotions. And it was that together, those things together, that got me back up on track. And I know more about myself. I'm grateful for going through it all, really, because I wouldn't have known this stuff about my body. I wouldn't have known about my mind or how to deal with my emotions, to be my own best friend, to be, all that self, the dialogue within and how it affects everything. And I can pass this stuff on to my kids now. I already am. So
yeah, that's good.
So how are you now at what, 42?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
How are you now?
Whoops, I just turned 43. So
just turned 43. All right.
I'm great, man. Like and it's not, my happiness is not, let's say, peace. My feeling of peace is not tied to having to feel happy all the time.
Yep.
My measure of peace and good life used to be, how happy am I on, every day? And if I wasn't happy, I'd get up in my head about it. If I felt fear, I'd get up in my head about it. If I felt now it's just different. It's like, I feel like I'm in collaboration with myself and the world and what the world throws at me. I operate under the philosophy as well that these things are kind of happening for me instead of to me. Life's not a battle. It's more of a puzzle that I've got to figure out. It's mind blowing, all the lessons you learn along the way. And I think when you go through shit like this and you come out the other side and you come out stronger for it, it means then that when a challenge presents itself, it's not like this me versus the challenge. It's like, okay, cool. Here's another lesson.
That's it.
Let's do this.
What do you do with yourself now, Nathan? I mean, obviously you play music. Do you have a 9 to 5? What's the day in the life?
No, actually, a couple of years ago, like as I was a screen composer, that was kind of like my day job for a long time, because I didn't want to put too much financial pressure on my art. But then it kind of reached this point where I was like, my art's not gonna. What I do as an artist and even mental health advocate and all that, I can't do. It's not going to go anywhere else unless I spend more time on it. So I took that leap. So no job security, no nothing, which was really scary. Yeah. And that's talk about a lesson in faith and just backing yourself and just having a little bit more confidence in, mystery. That mystery, just because you can't see it doesn't mean it's going to be a bad thing when it reveals itself. So I spend my time recording and my time live streaming on Twitch. So recording, releasing, developing this online course, touring, giving the odd workshop and talk as well. That's a space that I want to continue to move.
That's good. I mean, you're living life of purpose, or you're working towards that, which is a beautiful place to be.
Yeah.
Scary, but beautiful.
It is. Yeah, I agree.
Well, you can catch you on Twitch, like you were saying.
Facebook, TikTok.
All of them.
Well, Nathan Cavaleri, thank you for your time, mate. Thanks for being so open.
Of course. Thanks for doing what you guys do.
An absolute legend, mate. And look, we couldn't do it without people like you being open and vulnerable. So props to you for doing it.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, legends.
The Brown Podcast.
Why are you happy?
Because I don't want to be sad.